All right, hello everyone. My name is Timothy Lee Grant, and a little bit depressed today because I've been trying to go through leak code and I just kept failing and failing. Let me make myself a little bit smaller. This one, the longest consecutive sequence, just got bodied by it. And I was doing the other ones as well, and just like failing. I was like, come on. And it's kind of like if I can't do leak code, then the actual projects that I'm doing are irrelevant. So it's like, ah. So yeah, anyways, feeling a little bit down about that, and we're gonna keep going though. We're gonna keep pushing forward, and I'll do this project right now to try to get my mind off of that leak code. And but yeah, it's kind of unfortunate because like even if you're really good at projects, even if you're a really good software engineer, if you can't do the leak code, it doesn't matter. But let's just keep going on here. What we are trying to do today is continue to go through this, specifically this section right here of the HTML. So it's EJS, but it's HTML. And we're trying to understand what each of these things are doing. We created this in the last video. Now we're trying to actually understand like what's going on. So let's go back to the AI and ask it. So let's say, can you explain every... Actually, it might be the one up here. Is that... Yeah. Okay. That was my previous question in the last video. So now with fresh head, let's go back and let's look over this section and try to analyze every single point and get it to the uh, point. I don't want to say the same word again, but get it to the point where we can understand what each line is doing, what its functionality is, why it's being used, how it's operating, etc. If we have any more questions, we go right back to Copilot and ask it like, hey, what is this? What's going on? Why is it this way, etc. So let's go. So function submit form. All right, that one is kind of self-explanatory. That's just we're creating a function. So this script means that we are creating a JavaScript functionality. Okay, cool. So now we're writing JavaScript code. Awesome, we're writing JavaScript code. Function. Well, we're just declaring a function called submit form. Very easy. Great. Okay, so this is the first thing that is kind of interesting, especially coming from someone who has a more electrical engineering background. I never took web development or any of those courses, so I'm familiar with more of the C and like C++ and those kind that world, not web development, not backend development, not uh, those, not that uh, area. See, this is why I'm making these projects, is because I recognize that I have a lot of gaps in my skill set and I need to do projects to kind of fill in those gaps and learn those skills. So, okay, here's where something gets kind of interesting. Document. So what is document? I think what's going on here, and we need to confirm this, and we're going to do some experiments on this, but I think what it means is it's very similar to the Python self or the this operator, right? Like um, it means the web page says self dot element. So you're getting your own field or member variable, and it's that web pages, not class, but the web pages own member variable. So which member variable are we getting? We're getting the element by ID. So we're calling this method, okay? We're calling this method, and we pass in the parameter username. So this method will search for elements of the ID username, okay, within this, so it's a method that will return the element with that username, and an element is the self dot and then that member variable. Okay, so now this dot value. Okay, so I'm seeing three things chained together. So I get this, okay, but what is the order of operation? Like document, get element by ID, and value. So does it get the element ID and then pass in value and then send it to the document, or is it more linear, like this, where okay, we go to the document, then we get the element, and then we turn it into a value and then pass it into username? That makes a lot more sense. I think that's the way it goes. Okay. Retrieves the text entered by the user. Okay. Okay, so fetch. Now, this is another kind of interesting element. I'm not exactly sure what I can call it. Do I say it's an element? So it is a part of JavaScript. Fetch is a modern JavaScript API for making HTTP requests. So it's just a keyword in JavaScript, okay? Modern JavaScript API for making HTTP requests. I'm not sure what that's trying to say. So there's this submit here, which sends the request to submit endpoint on my server. Okay, alternative, if sending requests externally, you'd use the full URL. See, I can do fetch and then a full URL and then another function. So I don't understand this fetch. Can you explain what fetch is doing more? Okay, so that's question number one. Now we are going to see if we have any more questions. HTTP method, okay? So we come here, we have this fetch, we get then we do method. So fetch, we're passing in a path to it, and what I'm guessing is that these parameters, which are passed into the fetch API or fetch, what is it in a library? Like, where does it exist? Like, what is fetch? I don't really know, but I do know that there's something called fetch. It lives in the JavaScript ecosystem, and you pass parameters into it. And now we're going and looking at the parameters. One of the parameters is a path, or like a endpoint, that's going to be sent to the server, which in this case is myself, but the web page is sending to the server, which is me. Okay, so then the second parameter is actually this entire JSON object right here. And within this JSON object, you have multiple different parameters, which is like, okay, this one right here, which is method post. So Method post, this specifies that the request should use post method, which is used for sending data rather than retrieving it, okay? So next one is the headers. Headers provide extra information about the request. Content type tells the server data is in JSON format. Okay. Sending JSON data. So body JSON stringify. So I think this probably just, what is body actually? Converts the JavaScript object here into a string. Okay, that's fine. So what is body? So handling the server response and dot then response dot text. Okay. So first then takes the server response and converts it into text. Displaying the then data alert. So we have this then and then another then. Okay. For the dot then items, what is the server response? Okay. And then for fetch, where does it come from? And what exactly does it do? Was that all the questions that I had? Content type. Also, what are the parameters that can be passed in, and what changes as I pass in parameters? So I guess, is it like, I'm trying to understand this fetch. Maybe I need to ask it for more examples. That's what I might do. If I am still going here and I can still not understand what fetch is doing, I'm going to try to ask it to give me more examples and see if the examples make it more clear. So let's look. What is fetch? Where does it come from and what does it do? So fetch is a modern JavaScript API. I don't want to know that. You already said that. I don't know what that means. Used to make HTTP requests, GET, POST, etc. to servers. It originates from the browser, so we're in the browser. As a built-in function, it replaces older techniques like make a request. Okay, so all it does is do a post or a get or whatever other methods you can use to send a request to me, who is acting as the server. Okay. So Works asynchronously, meaning it doesn't block execution while waiting for a response. Okay, so fetch dot API, and so this is the server that it's trying to send the request, either the post request or the get request. Okay, so it says, hey, go to this and try to do a get. Okay, then take that response, the response which is coming from here, so it gets something back, and then I tell it you are a JSON object, okay? And then I pass that in as a parameter here as data, and I log that data. Okay, so I'm going to go to this API, I'm going to get something back, I'm going to say that that something is Java, or is JSON, and then I'm going to log that something. Okay. What parameters can fetch accept? The fetch function takes two parameters. Number one, URL. Okay. The server endpoint. Okay. The server endpoint you're requesting from. And number two, optional, defines request method. So like header, body, etc. Okay. Post. So we're making a post request. Header. Application JSON. Okay. So this one we're taking this object and we're actually making it an object, and that is the body of our post request. I think that's what's going on. What does it change? If I change method to get, no body can be sent because we're requesting data, so we're not posting anything. Okay. If I modify headers, it affects how data is processed. So maybe this is just like a key to the server. Like, hey, I'm putting things in JSON format. If I remove body, no data is submitted. Okay, so this is the actual thing where data is submitted. If I altered the URL, it goes to a different location. Okay, so what is body? The body is the data being sent to the server in a request. Yep, okay, that makes sense. Here, converts a JSON object into JSON format. Awesome. Get requests don't have body, only post, put, and deletes have body. Okay, that makes sense because get is going to just be requesting data. What is the server response in .then? When the server replies, fetch receives a response object. Okay. A message from the server, a JSON object, okay, or a error message. Okay. So, coming back up to here, we have this little thing, this button up here. And this button has an attribute on click, so when I actually click on that button, it calls this function, okay? Then, once this function hits, I am going to get the username, the element that has the username ID. I'm going to grab it from myself, because I'm the web page right now. I'm grabbing it from myself. And what has the username ID? It's this right here, okay? So I get this element, okay? And then I get the value which is stored there. So the user types something, and I grab what's stored in that element. Awesome, and now I store it as username. Then what I do is I say, okay, cool. now that I have the username, I have the information that I want on my web page, I'm going to send that to the server. So I say, hey, I need to send a get or a post or a put or a delete or whatever it is. In this case, it's a post, but I need to make a request. Okay, great. I'm going to use this fetch method. And I am going to send it to what location? Submit, \submit, okay? Now, okay, what method do I want it to be? I want it to be a put or a post, yeah? The headers is, okay, just JSON, okay? And now the important thing, body, is I am saying, okay, this username that we grabbed up here, turn it into a JSON object, and that's going to be the body. So that's what my server is going to get, is the username. Okay. And then all I do is I get a response back from this fetch object, or fetch request, okay? I turn that response into text, and then that's passed in here, and then I send an alert to myself. Alert will pop up that little box on the web page, bing, and the alert is going to say server response and then plus whatever this fetch method got. So let's run this. So node mon server.js. Okay, so we're running the server. Now, what did I call this endpoint? It is myform2. Okay, so let's come here, go here. It's already loaded, but myform2. Awesome. Timothy Lee Grant. And then I'm going to do submit here, and that triggers that script to run. And now I'm the web page right now. This is the web page. I'm not on my server, which is right here. So I'm on my web page, and I'm going to send a request to \submit. And so post, this is so this is on my server. The route for post and \submit is right here. I take the request and I have a response, right? I log something, which is going to be down here on the server side, and then I send a response back to the entity which just called the post \submit endpoint, okay? And I send back a response to them, and what do I say? What is my response? My response is, you got it, with this smiley face right there. So let's click that button and see if it works. There we go. We got an alert. And it says server response, and then plus data. Remember, and data is the fetch, the response that fetch got. We turned it into text and then put it into an alert, which is right here. Okay. All right. So I feel like I have a much better understanding of what each line does, and I definitely have a better framework to move forward. And it was something very important within kind of web development to be able to understand how all of that is working together. And so I'm glad that we were able to go through this and make some pretty good progress on understanding this point. In my next video, and as you can see, it says my second form from Timothy the grant, and now, oh, actually, let's, before we end this video, let's let's also investigate how it is doing its thing on my side, on the server side, to say, hey, you sent me data, right? Like, you posted data. Like, that was the entire point of that fetch, was to post data. Well, how do I capture that data? That's another really important point before we stop. That's like one of the most important points, actually. Well, I think they're both really important. Obviously, I need to understand it from the side of the web page and from the side of the server to understand, like, okay, well, how do these things play together? So let's look at it from this side, from the server's side now. All right, so I have this request, right? And so each time I am sent something, I can get elements from that request. And in this case, the request has a body. Oh. And we called body on the post request. That's where body comes from. Okay. Body is this body right there. So I okay, there we go. So body, and then I'm grabbing username, which is here. Although I didn't do something like whatever username here. So how did it know that this is called username? Because I could have called this username 2, and it's still like username 2, right? Like, how are those connected? Okay. Let's investigate that. Here is my post handler for the \submit endpoint. My question is, I want to know how I knew there was an element in the body of the request called username. All right. That's not what I just typed. Okay, here. The reason you knew that there was an element called username in body request is based on how the client side form submission was structured. How does this exist? Okay, the client, meaning the web page, okay? I'm the server, and then there's a client, which is the web page. Okay. The client sends data in the request body. So it does a post request. Name is username, okay? The name equals username attribute ensures that when the form is submitted, the request includes username and then value entered by user. Yeah, but I that's actually exactly my question. Is I didn't do this. I did this. I just put username there. I could have called it anything, right? Like this is just a variable name on my HTML, and I didn't. Like this one is explicitly saying, here is username. This is what the field is called. Okay. The server Express processes the incoming data. Express extracts body from the request because you included, yeah. So data is accessible in body. Since the client sent this, the server automatically creates an object with data. How can you confirm this? Okay, okay. Copy. Oh, it took a while. Okay. But look, I did this. And, whoops. And this is just passing in a variable. I didn't pass in a JSON. Well, I know it's going to say that I stringified, I turned it into a JSON file, but it doesn't have the two fields. JSON object with two fields. Okay, so you did pass in a JSON object, just one with a single field rather than multiple fields, yeah. So when you write this, JavaScript implicitly creates an object called username here. Even though you didn't explicitly write username, JavaScript automatically assigns the variable username as the value to a key with the same name. Okay, so that's our misunderstanding. It just takes this username, and that's what I called it. It was my variable. I put it in there, and it just automatically created those two fields where it has the username plus the actual value which I put in. Because what I was thinking is, well, I put in like whatever, Timothy Lee Grant as the username, but where does the word username come from to be grabbed by me as the server? Like that didn't make any sense because I only put in one thing, and that thing was not username, it was Timothy Lee Grant, right? But what goes on is, okay, JavaScript takes it and says, okay, I'm going to pass in two parameters, and I'm going to call it what the variable's name is, so username. There we go. Do we also want to go back and investigate this form thing up here? Like, last time in the last video, we were trying to get the golden copy such that it was working. Let's go and investigate what's going on here. Computers, every time I do a video now, my computer gets really hot. Like, so when I'm typing, it's like, okay, that's really warm. So, all right. Can you explain the form element more? Okay. Absolutely. The form element is a core HTML feature that allows users to input data and send it to the server, okay? So form, action, submit, post. Okay. Form. This tag defines a form grouping input fields, okay? Actions submit specifies where to send the form's data when submitted, okay? And that sends it to us, the server, at the /submit. Now, I only implemented the post, right? We can see here, I only implemented the post submit. So if I did a GET request at /submit, it shouldn't work, right? Copy this. And then like this, and then I'm just gonna do submit, and this should send a GET request to submit. My server does not have that as an endpoint, and so we should get a crash. There. Cannot get submit. Awesome. Okay. So, which is likely handled by my server, which it is. Okay. Method post defines the HTTP method used to send data. Okay. Yeah. Post, get, yep. So now, input type, text, username. Input defines an input field. Okay. So that's something that we can put input in. Type text specified that the user enters text. Okay. Username equals username. Sets the key name of this field in the request body. Yep. That's why we were able to do that body thing. Or no, not body, but I think this one right here, right? Username. Or no, that's an ID. Okay. When submitted, okay. So submit button. So button creates a clickable button, awesome. Type equals submit. When clicked, triggers form submission. So it sends the data. So this is just kind of like a keyword in the form element that triggers the action up here. So sending a post request to that endpoint. Okay? Awesome. So I think we kind of understand a lot more of what's going on here and how the client and the server are interacting together. The next thing that I want to do in the next video is probably actually take the data, because right now we're trying to learn as much as we can about becoming a software engineer, and specifically a back-end software engineer. one of the important things is to be able to deal with databases. So let's go and let's learn about how to take the data that we get from the client, store it in a database, and use that. So that teaches us multiple things that are super important in backend engineering. So if that is interesting to you, please subscribe to this channel. That would be awesome. My name is Timothy Lee Grant. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and goodbye.